Hey folks, welcome back to another Poem Massive video today. Let's talk a bit about the upcoming Holiday Whitney Sawsbuck, which as usual we'll be pulling for live tonight when it drops on reset, right? So make sure I'll tune in for that. It should be fun, hopefully. I mean, the last one was really good, so hopefully it continues and we not get hit by the seasonal curse, which, you know, happens quite often. Although, recently we've broken it, right? The last one. And by broken it, I mean, like, we didn't get, like, great luck on both. Was it the recent one or was it the one before? I don't know, but there was like one where we broke it where like both were bad. But anyways, all right, let's talk a bit about Whitney and Sawsbuck over here. So Whitney and Sawsbuck is a bit of an interesting unit, right? Does a lot of different things, although maybe not anything particularly well. I guess that's not completely true, I guess. There's one thing that she does pretty well, right? And we'll talk about this. But first, let's just quickly go over the unit in general, right? So as for the stats-wise, starting from the top, oh, she is a tech unit, by the way. Normal type. She is normal type. So there's that. 351 speed, which is all right speed, right? 404 attack, which is decent attack. 654 HP is all right. Defenses are not great, right? Not very great defenses. And as for, you know, her moves, you got Headbutt over here, which is, Headbutt's a good move, right? You know, 30% chance to flinch at base, which is nice. Got Move Gauge Boost, which is not very useful, but it is useful for Whitney because it's closely tied to her kit, like, a lot. Then you have Horn Leech, which is Horn Leech. You know, you could heal with that, deal a bit of damage, right? Grass type, so at least she's not like a completely normal type, you know, damage healer. So you also have a training move, Fun Time. So this is where the tricky part gets in. So first of all, gives your team crit defense, right? Gives move gauge acceleration to the, you know, for your field, and then turns the field of play into grassy terrain if the MP for move gauge boost is 2 when this move is selected, and turns into Psychic Terrain if it's 1 MP, and turns into Electric Terrain when it's 0 MP. So basically, you get crit defense, you get move gauge acceleration, which are all nice, right? But you also get a choice of one of the 3 terrains, right? Grassy, Psychic, and Electric, based on how much MP is left on move gauge boost. So that's the weird thing. So if you're just trying to set Grassy Terrain, all right, just click the train move. Boom, you got grassy terrain. Very cool. Also, doesn't even cost gauges. Not that that's a huge deal, but you know, it's a nice slight bonus there. You get move gauge acceleration, in fact. but if you do want to set Psychic Terrain, or if you do want to set Electric Terrain, you would have to use move gauge boost first, right? So that could be a bit of an issue if you're trying to time the terrains, right? For example, specifically to time it so that you could, you know, have it on maybe post sync or maybe as soon as possible, right? That could cause some issues there. Definitely because, well, damn, there's only three turns, right? Every sync cycle. So if you want Electric Terrain, you have to use 2 turns on move gauge boost first, which also slightly sucks because as not very useful move gauge boost is, you know, in some cases where, for example, if you're running a relatively slow gauntlet team and you're like, oh, I would really need to use the move gauge boost right now, right? But then you're running grassy terrain, so if you use move gauge boost, boom, you don't got no grassy terrain anymore, right, for the rest of the game, which is, well, not good. Then you can't use move gauge boost. So then, if you're running a grassy terrain team, you basically have a unit with only 3 moves. So there's that, right? Although, to be fair, you do get 3 different terrains that you could set. But again, it's just an issue of the timing, right? The timing. So that could be slightly problematic. I mean, in some instances, it could be totally fine, right? But there are also, again, scenarios where that could screw up with your rotations, right? For your moves. So your sync move is just increases when there's terrain in effect, so it could be either through the terrains, which is fine. I mean, it's a tech nuker, which also, by the way, low key, Whitney actually does some pretty good damage on the nuke. It's like, what, 5.6 million? Like, yeah, it's normal type. It's super effective against no one. But, I mean, off-type 5.6 million is not bad at all, right? I mean, you know, compared to some of the other types, right? You got, like, Bertha Courtney hitting for 6 million, which, to be fair, is better, right? Plus, they're, like, ground type, which is actually, you know, super effective against something. But it's 5 point something million is pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's, like, higher than, like, any of these guys, right? I mean, outside of, like, Iris and Koga, she do more damage on her sync than like any of these units, like assuming even if they are, you know, versus super effective, right? So I mean, you know, it's not terrible, right? Yeah, I mean, it's higher than the strongest. I mean, that was poison, but you know, this is higher than the strongest ice nuker, right? Maybe not close for like some of the other types, but still. Point being, her nuke's actually decent. It's not terrible. So all right, moving on to her passives, you got basically one different type of passive for each different terrain. So you have Team Verdant Defense Drain 9, which when you're in grassy terrain, raises defense of all allied sync pairs by 1 and lowers the defense of all opposing sync pairs by 1 when you use an attack move, right? Or when its attack move is successful against a target in grassy terrain, right? And the other two are the same, except this one's for special defense in psychic terrain, and this one's for speed in electric terrain, which, to be fair, these are pretty good, pretty well distributed, because most strong, or most of like the top, you know, grass type damage dealers are all physical, right? I mean, obviously SS Lyra's physical. Well, SS Lyra not that much of a damage, although she could do some damage. But SC Sonia's physical, right? Victor's physical. Although yeah, there's like some special ones too. SS Erica's physical, right? Yeah. I mean, again, there's a few special ones, but like if you look at something like SC Rosa, right? SC Rosa is like the top special, right? Grass type damage, but like she could easily debuff special defense on her, so it's not like that big of a deal for someone like SC Rosa. But obviously, almost all psychic units are special, right? I mean, are there even any physical psychic damage dealers right now? Yeah, I think literally all these are like special. Tate, I guess, but like Tate is yeah, I mean Tate's not, you know, incredibly prevalent. And if you want to count Side Strike for Mewtwo, but like Psychic is just so much better than Side Strike. Well, I wouldn't say so much better, but like Psychic is generally better than Side Strike, so like why would you really mute Side Strike? Unless like the stage demands it, where like they're just super resistant to like special moves and weak to physical moves, but like otherwise, it's not even like a physical move, but it hits based on defense, so or in this case it matters, right? But yeah, there's like 1.5 unit it's Psychic type that are actually, you know, hits physical defense, so yeah, that's really, really nice. And speed is just good overall, I guess. Just, you know, just nice to have speed. Always good to have speed for your team. And there's a lot of electric type damage dealers that have either Cakewalk or Inertia as well, right? I mean, how Elisa, Inertia units, you got like Cakewalk with like Clement or whatever. And yeah, there's so Marnie, Inertia, right, as well. So yeah, the passives all make sense for the respective units that you most likely will be running her with, right, in those terrains. So that's definitely nice, right? So all right, into the grid. All right, in terms of if you're trying to pull for her, how many copies do you want to get / how many candies do you want to use for her? 1 out of 5, you get the basics, right? You get all the terrains and stuff. You get the team buffs for the specific terrains or / opponent debuffs. You have like Headbutt, Flinch is nice. Horn Leech, do some damage. Maybe tank a bit. It's not gonna be like super great though, because like her defenses aren't really good, unfortunately. Although if you are fighting like a specific stage where like they either mostly just use physical or mostly just use special moves, then you could slowly build it up with either one of these two, but you also have to make sure you're in either grassy terrain or psychic terrain. But also, like, if you are in grassy terrain, You also get like the extra boost for like grassy terrain damage on your Horn Leech, which means you heal more. So it's not like completely useless in terms of Horn Leech, but like if you want to compare it to like Xerneas, for example, Xerneas is a better tank. Just Xerneas is a better tank. But I think Sawsbuck does more damage though. Yeah, Sawsbuck does, I think, 20% more than Xerneas. But yeah, obviously, again, Sawsbuck's defenses are nowhere as good, but in some rare scenarios, it could work out, right? So yeah, in terms of the grid itself, you got nothing much here. It's just like move gauge refresh, MP refresh, blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, this is going to be funny, man. Move gauge, boost, MP refresh. So if you really need to use, you know, the extra gauges, and you need and you need to maintain it at a certain level for one of the terrains, you just have to hope, pick this up and hope it like actually MP refreshes, not for the extra use of move gauge boost, because you're not gonna get that extra move because you have to not use it just to maintain the terrain. That'll be funny. Anyways, so yeah, there's that MP refreshes here and there, and then at 2 out of 5 you get some nice things, I guess. You get Pep Rally, which is always good, but you also might not be able to use it, especially if you're in grassy terrain. Maybe you could use one if you're in psychic terrain. If you're in electric terrain, yeah, you could use it, but you also just have like this, which buffs your team's like speed. So this is just it's just in a weird spot, right? You can't use it in grassy terrain. You get like +1 in psychic terrain, and then like it's not, you could use it, but it's not very, very useful in electric terrain. So it's generally a nice thing to have, but again, Sawsbuck just in a very weird spot with the move gauge boost, right? Mad Strength could buff your defense, which could be nice, right? If you want to, maybe in the specific scenarios where you tank, right, get some heals in with Horn Leech, or like, I don't know, if you really want to nuke with Sawsbuck, you probably should probably just bring another physical support to buff Sawsbuck. Let's not rely on +1 for every turn for like 6 turns to max that out, right? As for some other stuff, got Turbocharge, Shock Recovery for Electric Terrain, Precognition and Weird Recovery for Psychic Terrain, and Turbo Verdant Recovery for a Grassy Terrain, so 1 for each terrain, right? The Move Gauge Acceleration and Healing. Then you got like Flabbergast 4 for some reason. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it confuses the opponent, but, you know, it's kind of whatever. So yeah, I feel like 2 out of 5 is kind of a, like, yeah, you get some stuff, but like none of them are like crazy or whatever, right? 3 out of 5, you do get some good stuff though. 3 out of 5, you do get Headbutt Aggravation, which is obviously very, very nice. Turn that 30%, 6% chance to flinch. And then you have Terrain Sync Up 9, which powers up your sync move and terrain's in effect. So if you do want to nuke with Holiday Whitney, you probably want 3 out of 5, right? So you probably want 3 out of 5 if you want to nuke with Whitney. Team Charge Slow-Mo just makes it so that you debuff the opponent's speed faster in Electric Terrain. You got Sync Burst over here. Alright, I guess that's another way. Oh, I really need to use this 1 move gauge boost here. Okay, I'll just, you know, go ahead and pick up this 10 energy node up here, which is beside the 7 energy, and 10 energy node. so I can maintain my terrain levels for move gauge boost. Mind Boggler 9, which debuffs special defense against whatever, trapped, confused, what's the other one? Flinched opponent. Interference Sync 9, yeah, that's probably, you know, with the extra multiplier off of flinch for self. Obviously, you get teammates interfere as well, but, you know. Sharp Entry, Empowering Overgrowth, which gives you extra 30% damage in grassy terrain, which, you know, again, could help the Horn Leech healing as well. So, yeah, most of her good stuff is at 3 out of 5. Right, it's a Headbutt Aggravation, obviously very, very, very nice. Mind Boggler's pretty good too, right? Team Star Charge Slow-Mo is, I don't really care that much because, like, it's a bit faster, but it depends on the stage, I guess. Probably not that big of a deal for Gauntlet, but would probably be a bit more useful for Master Mode. Sync Burst is just funny, man. Not saying it's not useful, or not. Not that you can't like find a really niche or not even use, but like a really nice specific use for it. But it's just very, very funny that they have this in here. Considering the entire kit. Sharp Entry, it's +1 crit is nice, but like you want someone else to buff its crit if you really want to be doing damage there. Pattern Overgrowth, it's alright. And then, yeah, if you want to sync, you need 3 out of 5, right? So 3 out of 5 you definitely need if you're trying to do damage, or if you want to get the, nice flinches in with headbutt aggravation, right? Or some extra special defense debuffs. So, okay, that's the unit overall. Moving on to some sync grids, lucky skills and stuff, right? Team comps. As for lucky skills, it really depends. Because, like, that's the thing about this unit, right? It assumes a lot of different roles. And obviously, in terms of what lucky skill you're going to use on her, probably depends on what role you're trying to, fit her in as. If you're in that, specific stage where you could really run her as a tank, right? I'd say most time, by specific, I mean, like, grassy terrain teams where the opponent is mostly physically, use physical moves. I like it. The psychic one works too, but grass is just better because you get the extra boost in grassy terrain for like Hornleash damage. Well, it's the best one. So in those cases, you could do something like a vigilance, right? Because the big issue over there would be if the opponent crits you and then goes through your physical defense buffs and like one-shots you. Because as long as the opponent doesn't like one-shot Sawsbuck, and if you have, again, Sawsbuck's offenses increased enough to the point where Hornleash could do some legitimate damage, you should probably almost heal up all your HP every single hit. So you just really have to worry about getting crit there, right? So yeah, if you're trying to do that like weird tank thing, probably Vigilance. If you're trying to go for like the normal type / off type, always Nuker. Stuff like Crit Strike 3 would be nice. There's some other ones you could do maybe, but yeah, those are the two main ones, right? I'd say, is there anything else that's like really significant? Super duper. No. Kidding. Although I guess it could work for like Hornleash, but not for the nuke. Or I mean, well, it doesn't. But super power 3. No, don't actually do that. It's normal type. So, okay. As for the grid, starting at 1 out of 5. Again, if you have the orbs, pick up like everything if you want. But if you don't, still pick up everything. Unless minus MP refresh remove gauge boost, unless you really need it. Because otherwise, like, if you pick up the move gauge boost and, like, for example, you're trying to get the psychic terrain and, like, all right, I need psychic terrain, let me use move gauge boost first. Boom, it MP refreshes. Damn, you have to spend another turn and waste a move gauge boost because, like, after using move gauge boost, you're going to be, like, at max gauges, right? And even next turn, you should still have probably or roughly around enough gauges to queue up, moves for your team. And then, boom, use another move gauge boost. Don't pick up move gauge boost MP refresh unless you like for some reason absolutely need it, right? It's not a good idea. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's I guess 1 out of 5. I guess you don't have to pick up the headbutt power ups if you're like low on orbs. The other stuff you could pick up though. All right, for 2 out of 5 over here. Let's see. So 2 out of 5 again really depends on what team you're running it in. The grids are honestly pretty similar, right? It just depends on, are you running it in grassy terrain, or are you running it in psychic terrain? Are you running it in electric terrain? See how easy it is. Also pick up the speed +20, it's nice. Obviously you're not picking up all these at the same time, but like, one of these and then speed +20, maybe mad strength, maybe headbutt move gauge refresh, maybe Hornleash move gauge refresh, right? It depends. I guess that without aggravation, your flinches aren't super reliable, so maybe like Hornleash instead, maybe a few extra damage nodes, but like yeah, overall it's just basically, I guess you could pick up Flabbergas if you really want to, but like generally confusion isn't super useful. Most units that rely on confusion multipliers can confuse themselves, right, or any other confusion mechanics, and yeah, you could do something like that. Again, Pep Rally, you could do it. It's like 10 gauges, but again, it's like you're either not using it at all if you're grassy terrain, or you're getting only +1 in Psychic Terrain, which is alright. +1 speed is good for the team, but it's like it costs you 10 energy. And then like again, in Electric Terrain, you buff your team's speed constantly when you're attacking anyway, so it's like not that big of a deal. So yeah, that's 2 out of 5 grids. All right, I guess yeah, just like this stuff plus like whichever terrain you're planning to use. All right, 3 out of 5. Again, depends on what you're trying to do for this unit, because it could fit a lot of different roles. Like for example, if you want to go for like a nuke, you know, Whitney nuke, you could do something like terrain sync up, interference sync 9, because these are, you know, there's some pretty powerful multipliers, mostly. And as for the rest, it depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe headbutt aggravation, just because it's freaking headbutt aggravation. That's really, really good. Pick up the extra speed mode if you want. But you know, or you could do again use some of the terrain stuff if you're running it in those specific terrains. I feel like you could afford at least one of them, right, with this sort of grid in each. So it's Turbo Turf for grassy terrain, shock recovery for electric terrain. Can you afford? No, yeah, you can't do for Turbo Charge. And then for Psychic Terrain, it's I guess you could. I think Psychic Terrain you could go for both, yeah, or not, well, both, but like either one of them, right, depending on your needs. Common Psycho Whip, by the way. So no. And then, or you could go for Mind Boggle 9, which is honestly really nice if you do have special units, special damage dealers on your team. Unless you're doing Psychic Terrain anyways, because like Psychic Terrain already debuffs opponent's special defenses. I mean, it does it faster, which again would be nice for like mass mode, but otherwise probably not like that big of a deal. So if you are, that is if you're syncing with Whitney. If you're not syncing with Whitney, things become a lot easier. Just basically pick your terrain, right? So you're doing like Electric Terrain, boom, boom, you got that. Maybe you could pick up aggravation over here. Speed maybe, or team charge slow-mo if you want to debuff their speed even faster. Maybe sync burst. Look, man, sync burst could be nice if you're trying to get like 4 electric terrains in, or not 4, but like 3 electric terrains in. Right? Like yeah, you just like use up all your move gauge boost and then like use up another one. Cause like the thing is, sync burst gives move gauge boost back, so like you just have to like you have to use move gauge boost again. So you'd have to use what, 3 move gauge boosts for electric terrain. I mean, it gives you an extra one. Although also you're not doing too much damage if you're not running like a nuke grid with sync burst. So that sync burst just really freaking depends. Okay, it could be nice. I mean, damn, it's an extra terrain set, right? So like it's not like terrible. Just really depends on the time and place. Mostly time and mostly place, which doesn't make sense, but you know. Alright, as for some other stuff, again, you know, if it's Psychic Terrain, you go down this path, right? Mind Boggler if you want, you know, extra faster special defense debuffs. And for Grass Terrain, this stuff, right? For, you know, a bit of extra damage on Horn Leech too. And maybe Horn Leech Move Gauge Refresh, I guess, or again the speed, extra speed, or Move Gauge Refresh and Headbutt, really just depends, okay, right? So, alright, that's for the grids. Alright, so for grass terrain, obviously you could just go for like a lot of these like grass type units. I mean, like, you know, they're mostly gonna work, especially the physical ones with the extra, you know, defense debuffs, right? So, you know, like Victor, again, SS Lyre, who also sets grassy terrain, so like maybe not really, but you know, if you want to have fun, sure, go for it. She also helps with the interference and stuff, but like, you know, SC Sonya, SS Lyra, or not Lyra, Erica, that's Lyra, like Celine maybe even, right? And yeah, those units are all fine and well and cool and stuff, whatever, right? But one like fun one could be like Mallow, right? If you really do want to, you know, go for some like fun ones. And Mallow, just cause like in this case, Mallow could also, you know, help debuff the opponent's physical attack. Not that some of the others can't, but you know, Mallow just doesn't get that much love, so I thought we should just highlight Mallow over. Also ignore the grids below it. Those are just more like my gauntlet runs. But yeah, Mallow, you know, helps debuff the opponent's physical attack, which could help Whitney tank a bit better, right? So Whitney could legitimately become like a really nice tank against mostly physical stages, right? Over here, right? She buffs her defenses, also Sonya buffs her defenses too. And then Mallow debuffs the opponent's physical attack, and then boom, you just like horn. As long as, again, if you have like vigilance and the opponent doesn't like crit you too crazy, because if they crit you, your defenses are pretty bad. But they don't crit you, they're probably not doing too much damage, and you just basically heal everything back, which is pretty cool, right? Again, the support slot could be Sonya, it could be like any other physical support, right? That doesn't have to be Sonya, right? It could be any like physical support. Also, if you pick up like something like Mad Strength 9, you could maybe even go a bit lighter on it doesn't have to be like a max physical support. It could be something like, I don't know, like SS Morty maybe, or whatever. Although in those cases, like yeah, Whitney could tank, but like SS Morty could tank more reliably and like better maybe. I don't know, depends on circumstances, right? Like if the stage is legitimately just all like just physical moves, then maybe Whitney could be better maybe a bit, or you could use something like Hilbert, right, who's not good defensively, and then like boom, there you go, you could actually tank with Whitney over here. So yeah, that's some ideas for like, I guess, grassy terrain, right? Let's see, for what's the next one? Psychic terrain, right? There's a lot of things you could do for psychic terrain. I mean, someone like Mewtwo who's free and would appreciate the special defense debuffs over here, right? With Brain Teaser and stuff, that Smarty Pants would be nice, and you have some special attack buffer, or again someone similar like Annie May, who also sets psychic terrain herself, so probably not in Gauntlet, but like maybe in Master Mode, right? Where yeah, again, she could debuff opponent's special defense as well, right? Or special attack as well, which is kind of like the same thing with Mallow, except for like special stages, right? So yeah, it could also help Whitney tank there too. But yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, again, almost all, like minus Tate and a third of like Mewtwo's like damaging moves, right, are all special. So like you can't go wrong with like anyone psychic wise, plus they're all like just really good. So yeah, that's psychic, I guess. For Electric Terrain, you actually do like a pretty like fun, basically all like free team, obviously minus Whitney, but like let's start like a free team with like Sophocles over here having Cakewalk. Obviously you could again debuff speed, help Sophocles over there, but like something like Blue as the physical support, they all kind of help each other out, right? If depending on who you're trying to nuke with, because there's flinch based multipliers, right? And obviously Sophocles could flinch with Zing Zap, right? Again, flinch multiplier innate, and then or if you want to sync with Whitney got interference sync there as well with headbutt aggravation, and then obviously Blue also has Stomp as well, right? That good, with aggravation. So this could be like a pretty disgusting flinch team as well. Like again, it's Electrain, but also just a lot of electric types could use the help, right? Again, something like Elisa with inertia, Marnie with inertia, right? Hawu maybe as well to an extent. So yeah, a lot of units that you could really play around with. Obviously Ash is just I mean, not that Ash really needs any help from like anyone, but all right, so that's some of the suggestions. Moving on to some pros and cons of this unit. So pros, she does a lot of different things, right? She sets 3 different types of terrains. So like if you're pulling for it, it's a very it's a nice value unit. Like you pull one unit and boom, you get an electric terrain, a grass terrain, and what's the other one? Psychic terrain, right? Setter all in one, which is pretty good, right? That's really nice in of itself. You have a really solid off-type, always off-type nuker. You could have a tank in some specific scenarios, right? Not all scenarios. Again, if you're not fighting the right, stage, you will get obliterated with those pretty bad defenses. But in some scenarios, maybe you could tank a bit. You have someone who could give you some move gauge stuff, help, right? From here, not really from here. You have a flincher, which is again nice for certain gauntlet runs. Crit defense, which is cool, I guess. Although I feel like crit defense is of all the field effects, it's pretty low on the spectrum of like actually useful field effects. I mean, it's useful, but it's just like crits are rare-ish, unless you're really unlucky. And it's it's a okay-ish fast unit, right? And within those certain terrains with the right damage dealers, could be really, really helpful, increasing your team's overall damage wise with the first two, or second or third one, electric train, team speed, although also damage if it involves any multipliers based on speed buff / debuff. So yeah, nice buffer, debuffer, all that stuff as well. But downsides, a lot of cons, unfortunately. As nice and flowery as it all sounds, and when you have a first glance at this unit, you think, wow, really, really nice, fantastic. In fact, like, how could there be any downsides? Well, there are quite a few downsides, unfortunately. Well, number one is it's normal type, which its main like DPS move is grass type. Not that it A does a lot of DPS, or B like is super relevant. Its nuke is normal type, although again, it's a fine off type nuke. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think like the normal type knock is that big of a knock against Whitney, but there are other like legit concerns. First of all, again, the big one over here, right? This thing, it depends on how many freaking MP you have left for a move gauge boost, which means in certain scenarios, like if you're running grassy terrain, this unit literally only has 3 moves. You can't touch this at all, right? Unless you're gambling on that 30% move gauge boost MP refresh, which why would you do that? I would rather just not use move gauge boost at all than risking a 70% chance of losing like grassy terrain entirely. What do you want, folks? 6 gauges for like 1 turn, or like grassy terrain for like 2 to 3 cycles? All right, if you're trying to run a grassy terrain team. And okay, on the bright side for the other teams, yeah, you could use move gauge boosts either once or twice, right? But again, that could potentially screw over some of your comps, right? In terms of the order of using moves, right? In certain comps, using 2 extra turns or 1 extra turn before might just not be really good for whatever you're trying to set up, right? Some cases might be fine, but some not, right? So there's also that. And also, yeah, it has 3 cool passives, but like it's 3 passives. You only really get to use 1 every battle. So like for example, if you're in grassy terrain, which is probably her strongest terrain, but on the other hand, it's also the one terrain where it limits her to like only 3 moves she could use and only 1 passive. I mean, all 3 of them limit her to 1 passive, but this one also limits her to 3 moves. So that does also slightly suck. Is there anything else? I guess her DPS is not very good, which isn't a huge knock, but it's a bit of a knock, because I mean, outside of like Colorus, right? Recent tech units they've been really good damage healers. I mean, look, the most recent tech unit, Champion Serena, very good damage healer, right? If you go back a bit, okay, I guess SSN's not that great of a damage healer. Who's before that? Hilbert, SS Hilbert, right? Solid damage healer. And then before that, you got just like Thunderbolt Red, and then like SS May, SS Steven, right? Dojo Gloria, La Rosa, forgot about that, and like, you know, SS Karina. Nowadays, techs, you expect them to do some levels of damage, right? Again, not everyone has to do damage, but can you say it's not totally? I'm just saying it's not totally unfair of a knock against a tech unit that isn't a great damage healer, right? I guess she's not terrible, especially in grassy terrain, but yeah, outside of that, she's not fantastic either, right? Especially for like a limited, tech unit. But yeah, as for some other things, again, she could tank a bit, but her tanking is very unreliable and completely depends on the stage. Also, the other thing, her setup is her setup is really, really slow, right? In Grassy Terrain, it's not as bad because you could Grassy Terrain like turn 1 if you really needed to. The other ones, you have to use move gauge. But also, these passives are pretty slow to set up, unless, again, you pick up like the extra one over here or over here. Although this one's not really fast either. This one, at least, you know, you could just go when it's an electric train. This one, you also do have to, like, you know, the flint trap confuse the opponent, and then you could start getting this, which is, I guess, not that bad. So yeah, there is that. So unfortunately, quite a few downsides with this unit. You see that its kit does a lot of different things. It does so many different things, but when you pin it down, you do also realize, even though she does a lot of different things, she can only do one. Like she can only choose one path at once, and when you choose that path, or that specific, you know, mold that you're trying to run her for this team, she doesn't actually do that many things, right? In that specific team. So that's, I guess, a bit of a knock against her, I suppose. All right. So just to conclude things, I guess, let's see. Is she would I call her a really, really, like, you know, over the top good unit? No, I would definitely not say that about her. I mean, if you really want to, like, you know, look at the 4 Sumbul units that your new Sumbul units that they got out this month, I think it's not even really close in comparison to the other 3. The 2 Greninjas are clearly better, and I do think Jasmine is better overall. But does that make her like a bad unit to pull for? Because that's 2 different things, right? How good a unit isn't really determinative of you know, how much is a unit worth pulling. It's part of a factor, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say it's like totally not. It's part of it, but it's not the entire thing. And I do think this unit, even though I don't think it's a fantastic, right, unit, I do think it's still worth considering pulling for. Granted, you have the other 3, because I do feel like the other 3 are again just a step beyond, right? But if you got those 3, and also there's no point like pulling like now unless you really, really want the unit now. Like, you could still just wait for the update for like next month before seeing if you want to pull for her or not, right? But I think she's a pretty nice value unit, right? Despite all her downsides, despite all the wonkiness in terms of team comms, in terms of like, your rotation of moves and all that stuff, despite the sometimes highly specific scenarios where she could be most effective in, she's still like a unit where you only, you know, you get 1 copy, or like 2 or 3 if you want the extra grid stuff, but you know, it's in her basic kit, right? You get 1 copy and you have 3 terrains, 3 different terrains: Psychic Terrain, Grassy Terrain, Electric Terrain, all in 1 unit. And yeah, she's not like the strongest, like, I mean, if you want to like talk about terrain setters, right, is she the best Psychic Terrain setter? She's the best. Is she the best? She is nowhere. Come on, not even close to the best Electric Terrain setter, right? Or is she the best Grassy? The other one's SS Lyra, bro. Right? Like, no, she's not the best at any of these. But you get 3 in 1, right? Especially if you are like a, you know, if you don't have some of those terrains. If you do have those terrains, I think, I mean, you could still consider it, but, you know, if you have like Thunderbolt Red, you have SS Lyra, you have like Annie May, or whatever other psych terrains, so like Bianca, whatever, then, you know, maybe they're not missing out on too much. But if you actually don't have like, if you're missing like 2 of those terrains, or if you're missing all 3 of those terrains, this one you're giving you all 3 is pretty good, man, because terrains are huge. Like, yeah, like, you know, electric types, unless you have like, you know, Ash or like Thunderbolt Red. Well, you can't really count Thunderbolt Red, but like electric types without like electric terrain, outside like Volkner and like maybe Marnie a bit, like, well, new as Volkner, right? Like electric types are not that good, right? Electric terrain does help a lot over there, right? I guess you could say like for Psychic and Grass types, there's still like a lot of really good psychic grass types, even without the terrains. But you know, for example, electric type, it helps a lot, man. It helps a lot. So I'd say, despite this unit not being like a tippy top, you know, crazy unit as the Greninjas or whatever, right? This is a pretty solid value unit. It's 6.7, maybe, you know, 7 out of 10, right? Really nice value unit. Again, doesn't mean her issues aren't issues. Her issues are real, right? I'm not trying to oversell this unit. This unit definitely has issues. Flawed, right? Very narrow in terms of what it can do on each specific terrain and stuff, but it's nice value, man. It is pretty nice value. 3 terrains in 1 is nice value. But again, you could just still wait until you see what's coming in the upcoming update. Although January doesn't really, I don't know. Some Januaries has had its ups and downs. There's a few years where Januaries were really good, some not. I mean, you know, got Cynthia Lance. I think Sinnoh Arc was also on a January, right, as well. Well, not thing, it was, right. But then you also have, like, some years was just, like, New Year's Lance and New Year's Lily and, like, Mallow or something. Ethan? I don't remember. So, something like that. Anyways, that's for this one. I hope you all enjoy, guys. Think in the comments down below. Like, enjoy the videos for our channel. Some more Poemas content. You know, we'll be pulling for her live later today, so check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next one.